Boom. It is now recording. It is 3:07 on February 23rd, 2025. Welcome everyone that's here live. If you're watching us on replay, stay tuned. There could be some good stuff that you don't want to miss. But I appreciate everyone that's joining live and the ones that are listening on a replay. But we're going to go over a little bit of the spring session for grit. So I think I know most of the people that are on here live. But just to introduce, just in case there is somebody that stumbles across this on the World Wide Web, my name is Brant Miner, and I am the director of GRIT. I started it the year after the pandemic. Pandemic was still kind of in effect towards the start of GRIT. We were practicing in masks in 2021. I had one 8th grade team, and this year we have two high school teams. So those kids that were 8th graders now are graduating. And so I started it just to really help kids. I loved my club basketball experience when I was in high school. And so I had a team when I was coaching at Southern Oregon University called the Oregon Stars. And then when I was up at Pacific University, I started GRIT. So when I was thinking about what I wanted to call my team, there was some funny names that came to mind. There was some more serious names that came to mind, but I really wanted something that exemplified what I look for in players and people that I spend my time with. And so grit is one of my favorite qualities. So I came up with grit. Well, actually, moxie was my second choice because I love moxie. I love a player with moxie, but the X, and it just didn't really work as well for the acronym that is grit. So I'm going to call on a few people pick on a few people that I recognize on the call that will tell us what this acronym, if you guys don't know what an acronym is, go to high school, but each one of these letters stand for another word. So I'm going to call on Vince first because Vince is a returner that played with us last year. He's got a Duck shirt on, and I know where there's going to be some Ducks Beavers rivalries within grit. But as for me and mine, my wife went to U of O. We used to have season tickets for the football games until we had our daughter. But Vince, go ahead and unmute. Tell us what the G in grit stands for.
Gratitude.
Gratitude. Thank you for answering that and not embarrassing me with the G and not remembering what it was. I knew I could count on you, Vince. Gratitude. And I think that is I'm glad that it starts the word because that's how I start everything is with gratitude and appreciation and thankfulness. And so I think that every day we get to play basketball is a great day and it can be taken away. We've learned that with a pandemic. We've learned that with injuries. So we don't take it for granted that we get to play basketball. It's a game, but it's the greatest game in the world, in my opinion. But it's a game. And so this is about more than just the basketball piece of it. Kellen, I'm going to call on you next. So if I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to compose yourself, maybe even send a text to somebody else if you can't remember what the R is. But go ahead, Kellen, unmute, tell us what the R is.
Resiliency.
Resiliency, yes. Bouncing back, gratitude, resiliency. So we started right after the pandemic. And I think how you bounce back from something speaks volumes to who you are. One of my favorite, I guess it's an acronym too, E plus R equals O. Event plus response equals outcome. So the event plus the response equals outcome, not event equals outcome. Event plus response. How do you handle certain events dictates the outcome. So the R, resiliency in grit, being able to bounce back. You get hit, that's okay. How do you bounce back? How do you handle adversity speaks volumes to you and your character. All right, I'm going to toss the I. I don't know if Aiden can reach the mute button, but hopefully, Aiden, you don't mess this one up. I, what do you got? The I.
Intensity.
Okay, I'm going to give you credit, but because that's the right answer. The right answer is intensity. But the way you said it, Aiden, made me really question. I mean, it's kind of like at a job interview saying, Well, I'm really neat and organized, but then in the background, you got a messy room. You got clothes hung over the chair, right? What is the I, Aiden Hendricks?
Intensity.
Intensity, a little better. We're still working on them, moms, dads. But intensity, I'd rather be thought of as a little too intense than just yeah. Yeah, that Brant guy, he's just I'd rather have people be like, man, that guy's a little intense, a little too passionate about stuff for me. So the I, and there was a couple answers that we talked about. We could have gone with integrity, which is a great quality, but we want intensity. And there is another one here that there was multiple options for what we went with, Clayton, but we didn't go with the short one. We went the longer one, Clayton. Go ahead, Clayton Slagers, unmute and tell us the T for grit.
Togetherness.
Togetherness, yes. Togetherness. I know some people are thinking, well, toughness, toughness plays or tenacity, but it's togetherness. Togetherness. Gratitude, resiliency, intensity, togetherness. So I start out by saying that that's something that everybody will know. And if not, we remind them gently with some cardio. In other words, we make you run if you don't remember what it means, just to help reinforce that. But I think that those are kind of a great way for us to start the call, is because grit, it's what we stand for, and we don't tolerate slippages in that. And I think you'll hear me say this a lot. Play hard and play together. Play hard and play together, and then see what happens. Play hard, play together. We'll live with the results. You can't always control the results. Process oriented, not outcome driven or motivated. Outcomes will happen, but what you put in, that's what we can worry about. So we might play really well and still get beat by 40. That's happened. In club basketball, you might get matched up with guys that are just way better than you, and you play hard, you play together, you play well, but you still don't win. And we could lose every game. And if we're playing hard and playing together, I'll live with it. Let's not get this twisted. I'm not wanting to lose every game. Let's not get this mixed up. We're going to play to win, but this is about playing hard and playing together. So now I'm going to introduce my main man. I kind of gave him a little bit of a razz about being late earlier or missing flights, but I'm going to have my main man who will be coaching with grit. He is a former head college basketball coach. He's been an assistant college basketball coach at a couple of Pacific's rivals. He was an assistant at Linfield and Willamette. And then he got his head coaching opportunity at South Puget Sound Community College. He came out from Florida about 10 years ago, where he was a head high school coach. He packed it all up, moved from the East Coast to the West Coast to chase a coaching dream to be a college coach. And it happened. At Willamette was his first stop. But Coach Willis, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you say hello, and then we'll keep moving. Coach Willis, what do you got?
It's great to see everybody. It's great to meet some new faces and to see some guys returning. Welcome to the new people, and glad to see you guys back, to those who are returning. I'm looking forward to working with Grit again this spring and summer. I know we're ironing out details of exactly which team I'll be coaching. So looking forward to working with all the guys, because I know we end up practicing together. So please make sure that you use me as a resource. If there's anything that you kind of want to get better at, this is a great time to do that. You'll be fortunate enough to be in a gym with multiple college coaches and former college players. So make sure you make this time count. All right. Some people count time and others make time count. So make sure that you make this time count with us this spring and summer with Grit. I'm looking for people to be confident in what they're doing and eager to be coached, and how quickly you can apply the information that's being taught and shown to you to your game. So with that being said, I'm looking forward to a great spring and summer with you guys.
Love it, Coach Willis. Boom, 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 boom. Confident. I'm looking for players that are eager to be coached. Eager to be coached. And that is one thing that you will learn is that when you come to grit meetings, we like to have players that have notebooks and take notes and write things down because you think you'll remember everything, but you won't. And so this is an informational meeting. I'm not making anybody run after this because they didn't bring a notebook or aren't taking notes. But I know I took some notes right there because that eagerness, that excited to show up every day when you get into the gym. And don't just get there and just start looking at the clock. Don't watch the clock. Don't just the type that just checks in and wants to get out. Check in, invest in this experience. And Coach Willis and I have a lot of fun, but we're really serious when it comes to being your best. But there's certain times where you can see that we'll turn on our personalities, and then there's times when it's time to work. And so I think that that's something I love spending time with Coach Willis. Coach Lunt is they just wrapped up their season last night, unfortunately, at Pacific. They won an exciting game, and we're going to pass it over here to Will here in a second, who was at the game. I was there for the first half with my daughter and got to see the guys on their last game. And then my daughter kind of patience ran low because there was a lot of fouls, just like bogus foul. And that's not, it was the time that upset her, not really the foul calls that got her upset like they got me upset. But so he had his senior brunch or lunch today. So he's with the players that were seniors this year at Pacific. And then Jacob Bolger is our other coach. And he played at Pacific. You guys will get the opportunity if you haven't met him to meet him. But he played, he's got a great story, played at Cleveland High School in Portland, came to Pacific. I was the head JV coach, and he played for me. He didn't want to play for me. He wanted to play on varsity like most kids do, but he played for me. We had a great story about me correcting his behavior one time with a very loud voice, with some very flowery vocabulary. And the whole gym wondering, what did Jacob do to get on Coach Miner's bad side? Because I have never heard Coach Miner say such loud words. But Jacob is a better young man today because of that butt chewing that he got. And finished up a two-time All Northwest Conference player for Pacific. He was All Conference for 2 years, and now he spent the last 2 years on the Pacific Boxers coaching staff. So he went from high school boy to college young man to now still a young man compared to me, compared to some of us, but he will be coaching also. And then Justin Lunt, I mentioned him, but he's the head coach at Pacific University. Played at Pacific Lutheran, then was the head coach at the University of Puget Sound for 12 years. So he's been a head coach now almost 20 years, and he's young. We joke he's like Doogie Howser. I love that joke because parents all kind of smile and kids have no idea who we're talking about. But Doogie Howser, Doogie Howser was a young doctor TV show, but Coach Lunt was 25 when he got his first head college coaching job, and he's been a head college coach every year since. So that's why we joke that he's like Doogie Howser, because he was really young and good. Anyways, I'm going to pass this over to somebody else to speak a little bit, but I asked Will Dimflemeyer to come share a little bit with us. Will is a father of a player in the program, played for us last spring, last summer, and is going to play with us again this spring. And he was able to witness some of our mental training portion. He was able to witness the whole program and wants to come back. So that says something. But also our mental training piece that we provide that I think is second to none with some of the stuff that we do as far as like preparing the athletes mentally to perform. So Will, thanks for joining us today and taking some time. I know Cody's in a game or an open run right now playing, so he's not with us. So I appreciate you joining, Will. Thank you.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's good he let you know they have to work around pickleball at our local gym. The basketball courts get taken up with that all the time. So, and they're
I
not
can
thrilled.
understand that. Pickleball is a very fun sport, and it has kind of grown in popularity where it's taken some of that open gym time away from hoopers, but it's a little
Yeah.
more my speed than tennis or live 5-on-5 full court anymore, to be honest. But will you tell us a little bit, maybe just first, just about your experience last summer, spring and summer, and kind of why Cody decided to come back this year?
Yeah, definitely. He's played in a lot of club programs through his youth, and was actually going to play for another program last year, and it really was a bad situation. And luckily, there was one more spot that was available and kind of came in right before it started. But really changed his, perspective on basketball. He was kind of went through a couple like not great experiences, but grit really turned things around where he really was loving the game again. I think flourished under Brant, you, Coach Willis, Coach Lunt, and yeah, just had a great year. And I could just see the joy, grow throughout the year. And it just seemed like it got better. Like we had the spring team that was fantastic, and then a couple guys moved on, kind of retooled with some new players, and then summer seemed to be even better. So, yeah, I remember the kids all just became like really close friends too. It was great competitive basketball, but Cody's still like really close with a lot of the guys. Corbin actually is he's playing runs with right now. So, yeah, and the mental aspect too was great because that was never a part of a program Cody was in. So I never really sat in on those sessions where they did it. Maybe heard a little bit here and there walking through the room, but I did kind of see it on the court. Just knowing, watching him his whole life play basketball. I saw him like better in game, be able to deal with adversity and resiliency. I was thinking of Brant. That's the word that really, I saw him be more resilient within a game if things weren't going right, bad calls or, whatever. He was able to adjust or just hang in there. And then I saw it with the team too. Like there were a lot of weekends where Saturday they would drop two ugly games. It would not look great, but they left kind of, all together, like, not mad. No one was upset or anything. Came back Sunday and had two great wins. So I would see the team, not just individually my son, but the whole team kind of be able to adapt, and bounce back.
That's awesome. And I'm glad it shows because you can talk about it, but I think the guys took advantage of it. And I did see, just like you said, the bounce back. And some of that is not getting too high or too low. And that's what some of that mental training is about, is not getting yourself out of that peak performance zone. So I appreciate you sharing that. And definitely, yeah, the guys got back and went fishing after one of the tournaments, and um, just kind of, it is really cool for me to see guys. We handpick the players and try to find guys that I think will get along, and are about more than just themselves. Because if this is just about you, it might not be the right fit. And I always say that we play for the name on the front of the jerseys, but also the name on the back of the jerseys. Some people are so focused on that, kind of, not maybe cliche, but oh, we play for the name on the front. But so you are representing grit every time that you go out on the floor, even when you're back playing with your high schools, people say, oh, that kid played for grit. So you're still representing us, but you're also representing your family. You're representing the people that believe in you. You're representing more than just you. And so we do Zoom calls a couple times a week, so we can kind of go through a little bit of the schedule. My philosophy, I don't think we need to fly all over the country this spring. I don't think we don't have the players that are going to be getting D1 attention. I don't think we need to be flying to Kansas and things like that. Do we have college level players? Obviously. Cody, who Will was just talking, is a college player. And everyone usually, most people say unsigned seniors playing club basketball. Well, you can be, as long as the school you're going to is okay with you playing, you can play. Most Division Ones and Division Twos aren't going to let their players play because either they're worried about getting hurt, which I think is kind of a bogus reason, or they're worried about losing their players to other programs. So you can play even if you've committed to a school. And Coach Lunt is where Cody's going to play in college. And so he still wants to play with them this spring. And Coach Lunt wants him playing and getting better under his coaching this spring. So Cody will be playing in college in the fall, but will be playing with us this spring. So we're playing 5 Portland area tournaments and 1 Seattle tournament in the spring. And that'll take us through Memorial Day. Then in June, players will be with their high school programs or whatever they're doing. We'll go have a couple Zoom calls in there, but it will be a different team for July. So we did the same thing last year and it worked really well. I know Will mentioned some of the players that were playing baseball joined us in the summer. Some of the players we had one player that had to pick cherries, literally, not like a cherry picker that's lazy, like literally had to go out and like pick cherries on his family's farm in the summer. So he played in the spring, couldn't play in the summer. So we will have 2 sessions. So the commitment for this season is through Memorial Day. So that is May. So that's when the season will run. We'll start in March. The first event will be not a tournament. It's the Max Hoops Showcase, which is March 29th and 30th. And that is an event that I've run. I've run the showcases now 10 years, run Max Hoops for 16 years, and I'll get 12 to 15 of my college coaching friends together. It's at Pacific University. So that's 9 to 4 both days, and that's included in the fee for this summer is the Max Hoops Showcase. And that's just a chance where I divide the teams up so there'll be players that aren't playing for Grit that will be at that event, and you might be on same team as other Grit players. You probably will be a few, but it won't be like one Grit team all together. So that's a chance to meet other players, meet college coaches, and have some fun. And then the following weekend's the Final Four. So most of our coaches will be away for that, but we will do a Zoom call that weekend. And then the next weekend is when we start tournaments. So April 12th and 13th is the first weekend of tournaments. And we will play in the Hoop Source tournaments. We're not a shoe sponsored tournament team. There is teams that claim they are. I don't think, my personal opinion is I don't think that's the best way anymore. Very few tournaments, if any, will any team out of Oregon play where there's college coaches they're watching. Very few. The EYBL is a legit tournament. And if the EYBL teams, those kids are getting Division I, Division II looks. After that, the best way to get recruited is not to get on a team that's playing in Kansas in some of these quote unquote shoe tournaments. Everybody's leaning in, hopefully, right now to hear the tip. It's get around coaches that have an expansive network and are trusted and are believed. That's the best way to get recruited. It's to get around coaches, and Coach Willis, Coach Lunt, myself, Coach Bolger are going to be honest. Hey, no one on this call am I calling John Shire for. If you guys don't know John Shire, he's the coach at Duke, won a national championship as a player, but there's nobody on this call that I'm going to call Coach Shire and tell him to recruit you. But I do know him. He did coach for me for 2 weeks. The guy knows me. I know him. First time I met Coach Mike Krzyzewski, Coach K at Duke. I told him where I was from, and next time if you find another Kyle Singler out there, you better give me a call. Here's my cell phone. So I do. Coach Willis he played in the Big East, the old Big East conference. Coach Willis knows a few coaches. He's been a head college coach. Obviously, Coach Lunt's been a head college coach for 20 years. So he had opportunities to go be D1 coach. He's had opportunities to move up levels, but he loves the Division III level because it's a better life work balance. And as a student athlete, it's a better student athlete balance. But that's the best way to get recruited now. And we'll be honest with you and tell you, hey, I think you can play at this level. And some coaches will sell a higher level than we're going to tell you because we're going to try to be very honest because we don't want disappointment or upset feelings or regret. And sometimes people hear, oh, I say you work your tail off, you might play NAIA. And people shake their head. Well, this program said I'm going Division I. You're not. You're not. Like I hope you do. I hope maybe this is fuel that motivates you to prove me wrong. But genetics is a real thing. And you're a 5'11 guard, and there's a lot of 5'11 guards out there. And so you work your ass off, you might play NAIA. They had been listening to the hype. They decided to come play for Grit. And now Caden Groneg's playing where? Does anybody know? Oregon Tech. Oregon Tech, which is scholarship level basketball, but it's NAIA. But if he would have been listening to the other people that were saying, oh, you need to chase this dream, and this guy's telling you you're going to NAIA, you're a D1 player, he probably would be sitting at home or maybe going to school and not playing. But he's playing NAIA basketball, which is scholarship level basketball at one of the top teams in the nation, and having a great experience. He's a freshman, and I love it because he's filling up the water cups. He's wiping up the sweat. And I feel like some of that is because of the lessons that he learned from Grit, that nothing's too small for you to do. Nothing's beneath you. And sometimes we as players or as people even feel like, no, that's somebody else's job. You won't see our bench dirty after games. That's something that I take pride in. And I make sure that you guys clean it up. I'm looking around at the players on this. And if you don't, then I'll pick it up and you'll see me carrying a lot of water bottles off. But we won't leave our bench dirty. And we might be picking up for the last 7 teams that played on that bench in the AAU tournaments, but we're not leaving it with any bottles under it because we want to leave things better than the way we found them. And how you do anything is how you do everything. If you cut corners in class, if you shortcut things, if you don't go to class, how can I trust that you're going to be able to remember what to do if I drop a play and it's loud and there's just distractions and there's the band's going and this guy dropped his popcorn over there, so they're having to call timeout and clean up the Dr. Pepper on the court, and I'm trying to drop a play because there's no more timeouts. And how can I trust you that you're going to buy in and be focused if you can't focus when I'm talking? If I can't trust that you're going to show up and do those little things. So we do try to make sure that we touch the line. And that's something that most people hear when they think about running lines, running champions. And the guys that know that we call those champions. The line drill, you go baseline to free throw line and back, half court back, other free throw line back, full court back. We call those champions because you got to get it in 32 seconds to be a champion. And some people, there used to be a word, people would call them suicides. We don't call those suicides. There's nothing in basketball as bad as taking your life. And people sometimes will, my second most viewed tweet was that, hey, let's just change what we call him. Like, why do we have to call it a suicide? After a kid that I recruited to Pacific took his life, I really tried to make it kind of a thing like, hey, change the way you speak. Because what if there's a kid that had his brother take his life and now all of a sudden every time there's practice, we're saying, oh, go run a suicide. I just don't think that the language, and to flip it from a negative of this is a punishment, this is the worst thing ever, to no, we want to run these because we're going to be champions. And so that's something you won't hear me say, oh, everybody on the line, we're going to run a suicide. I don't think that's nothing in basketball is as bad as that. No matter how many times I've run lines and gotten sick and thrown up, or been outside in the rain at UP having to run around the child center, I will say that there's nothing even bad as the way I felt when I heard that young man, Kelson Gebbers, had taken his life. And so we run champions, but we touch the line. We don't come up short. You don't come close to the line. We touch the line, and that's in everything. Not just in basketball when you're running lines, when you're running champions. We touch the line in the classroom. And that's something that is a huge piece of this too, is the better your grades are, the more opportunities you'll have, more options you'll have. Doesn't mean you're gonna get to play in college. I don't promise college spots for anybody, no matter what, because you might not make it. You might get hurt. There's a lot of things that we can teach you to improve your chances. That's all we can hope for. It's just to increase those odds. Maybe it's from 40 to 80. Maybe that'd be awesome. Maybe it's you have a 50-50 chance, coin flip, and we can push it to a 60-40. So just there's no guarantees, there's no promises, but I know a lot of coaches that if I were to say, hey, Mitch is a great student, great kid, and he can shoot the piss out of the ball, they might take a look. Doesn't mean they're going to take him. Doesn't mean they're going to offer him a scholarship. But I think at the schools that are realistic for you, Mitch, they'll evaluate. And then then you got to be able to make shots. You got to hopefully grow, get stronger, get quicker, all that stuff. But I'm confident that I can get coaches to evaluate our players. And I think that not many coaches are going out to AAU tournaments just sitting back watching and hoping they find the next superstar. So when there's clubs or AAU programs that are selling that they're going to go play in all these tournaments and playing for all these coaches, I hope you do. And I hope that if that's what you want to do, I hope that works out. But I would be surprised if there's many gyms with an abundance of coaches. I would challenge you. I think the Max Hoops tournament or the Max Hoops camp might be the most coaches we get in a gym for the spring. 15 coaches. I hope we're playing in tournaments, but D1 coaches, they're not going to be watching any tournaments unless it's the EYBL. They're not. If it's a D2, I know all the D2 coaches in the GNAC and the left coast, west coast. So if that's the level you want to play, we can talk about that. But NAI is very high level basketball. That's Corbin, Southern Oregon. It's scholarship level basketball. Division III, Luke Winkler. Kellen's worked with Luke, right? Kellen, what would you say he's unmute? Tell us, is he a good player? Have you seen him play a lot at Pacific? Good, right?
Yeah, he's a pretty good player.
He led the nation in steals and assists. Kellen's kind of slow playing it. The kid's a baller. He first team all conference, first player in the history of the university to have 1,000 points and 500 rebounds and 500 assists. Every time he threw a dime this year was a new school record. Every time he got a steal was a new school record. But he played at Grant High School, kind of under-recruited, but he's a 6-foot guard, and there's not a lot of roster spots for 6-foot guards. So he came to Pacific, and he's had a great experience. He's one of the guys that's at that senior luncheon today, probably going to play pro for a while and then go back to med school and be a doctor. I mean, he's a winner. He's a good young man. But that's what's important to me, is those lessons about finding the right fit for you. And everyone's going to tell you to find the right fit. And that factors in location, size, cost, all of those things. And so most of my life has been coaching college basketball. My most recent move was to assistant director of admissions. So now I coach Grit. I'm the director. I have 2 little kids and a busy wife. And so I'm the director of Grit. Willis, Lunt, Bolger, they coach. I'm the assistant to the assistant. I'm the assistant to where if they need Starbucks on the run, running out and grabbing it or whatever. But with my two kids, so I'm still coaching grit, running max hoops, but I'm the assistant director of admissions. So I can speak to a lot of the college admissions process. And the better your grades are, the more options you'll have. And I will tell you, this is numbers, just numbers, because people think, well, I'm a 3.6, that's good. The difference between a 3.69 and a 3.91 over the course, and Will's nodding his head because we just went through this with him to get him to Pacific. If you have a 3.69, you get 22,000 a year. If you have a 3.91, you get 30,000 a year. 3.69 is good. So a lot of people are like, yeah, that's great. That's awesome. That's great. 3.69. 3.69 is a good GPA. That will get you $22,000 per year. However, a 3.91 will get you $8,000 more per year, 32K and more over the 4 years. So the better your grades are. So if you're a 3.7, try to get to be a 3.9. If you're a 3.9, get to be a 4.1. You know, you can always do a little better, but if the best you can do is B's, I won't be mad at you, but do the best you can to get the grades because it will equal more scholarship money. And if you're a 3.9, you might be able to play in the Northwest Conference. If you're a 2.9, you probably won't. If you're a 3.9, you can play at Lane, Lynn, Benton, Chemeketa, Clackamas community colleges with a 3.9. But if you're a 2.9, so more options. Jack, I'm gonna call on you, okay? This is your chance to shine. You didn't play with us before, but what's better? I'm gonna wait to unmute because this is a question. So what's better, Jack? More options or less options, Jack?
More.
More. Boom. Okay, that was a test because if you would have said, well, I just don't really like options. I want to get a low GPA just so I don't have many options. Then we would have had a serious conversation for our conversation after this call. But you got that right. More options is always better. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. And if you guys don't know Coach Bolger, just a little taste of the intensity that this guy's going to be bringing to the table. That's Coach Bolger. And he's a maniac. But he is passionate about working with players and helping them. But he works out. I think he does like pre-workout is what I don't know. I don't think my heart would take that, but I don't work out as hard as he does either. But it is 3:45. Coach Willis, I'm going to pass it to you for one last kind of closing shot while I check my notes. Maybe what you're most excited about for the spring or any information or wisdom. Some of the guys are done with their season. Some of them still have games going on, but maybe just a little bit of either motivation for the end of the season or what you're looking forward to most for the spring. Coach Willis.
I think I would encourage everybody who is finished with their season or your season is winding down. I would encourage you to have a conversation with your high school coaching staff and find out where you are in the program and where they see your trajectory going in the program. Kind of like finding out the difference between where you are now and where they want you to be at for next season. And bring that information with you to Grit. Because as coaches, we would love to work with you to make sure that you're prepared to go back for next season. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Like you'll have summer ball coming up, right? Like once you're done with Grit, you'll go right into summer basketball with your high school team. So that would be a great opportunity for you to say, hey, coach, what should I be working on so that I can be more of a positive contributor to the team next season? I think that's a fair question. I would encourage you to have that conversation and take notes on it and bring that stuff to us. And then that way we can help implement and strategize as we're going through drills, as we're going through warm-up stuff, practice and things like that. We can help strategize and get you more prepared for that role that the team may need you to play in the next season.
I love that. And that's what we're here for. So just to kind of wrap up here, What we're looking to do is we're going to have 20 players, 4 coaches, 2 teams, 1 program. So 20 total players in the program. We will play in all the same tournaments. We will do all the same Zoom calls. One team, they're going to be the same age of teams. So one will be a top division and one will probably be a second division. So right now we have about 6 and 6. So we're going to take 15 and then do the evaluations to pick the remaining 5. So some of you have been offered a spot. Some of you have been offered a chance at tryout. And I don't think anybody that I said had no chance is on the Zoom. But so there's kind of 3 different areas. And if you've been offered a spot and you're not sure if you want to take it yet, you can wait for the evaluation period, but then you're kind of at risk of not being in the mix. If we offer you a spot and you take it, you're locked in. Even if there's 12 players at the evaluations that are more advanced than you are, we're not going to cut anybody that we offer a spot. So there's some players that maybe we're saying, hey, we want you to come to the evaluation because we think you might be in that mix of that top 5 that come to the tryout. Or we might be saying, hey, we want you to decide now because what if 12 players show up and you're not one of the top 5, then you might not get a spot with us. So there is kind of a few different things, and we're trying to do it differently in that we'll practice on Friday nights before our weekend tournaments because we have kids coming from Klamath, Medford, out in the Santiam Valley, from all over. So there's kids coming from Hermiston. So we'll practice Fridays. Then during the week, we'll do Zoom calls. And those are extremely important because that's how players get to know each other. And we have fun, we joke around, we trivia, give away stuff. But those are important because, like I said, play hard and play together. And if the players all know each other, there's less jealousy, there's less selfishness. And so, and I'll say this, parents, we don't tolerate you guys doing coaching. We want you to be more like the cheerleaders. So you're welcome to yell. I don't mind yelling. Like I like families that yell. Like I yell. You'll hear me yelling a lot. But if it's telling your kid to shoot it, let us be the one that yell at your son for not shooting it enough. Let us be the one that, because not only can that hurt your son, that can hurt the team camaraderie. If other parents are feeling like, well, they don't want him to pass the ball to my son. So we don't tolerate that. We have a 24-hour cool down rule. So if you're pissed off at me or Willis or Lunt, you're welcome. But we need a 24-hour cool down, sleep on it. I think a lot of programs do that just because it's silly to try to have a conversation the Sunday night after when everyone's emotions are still high. So the first one is with the player coach. Then if it still needs to be more, then it's players, parent, coach. Then if it needs more, then I will step in also. But hopefully we're picking the right 20 kids to where you guys trust us that you'll turn over your kids to us. And the best thing you can say is, I love to watch you play. Great game. And leave it. And I know it's hard for lots of parents because you guys maybe played or maybe didn't. That's probably even worse if you've never played and you're trying to tell your kids what to do. But my thought is, and my son's 2. He's upstairs napping. My wife and daughter are upstairs hanging out, but they still listen to everything I say. But I do know that sometimes tension can be created where if the kid just dreads the ride home, if they just don't look forward to getting coached or lectured or or if you're telling them that the coach is screwing you because they're not playing you and you're siding with them and you're wallowing in their pity with them, right? Like just try to let us do the coaching And if there's things that you see, I'm willing to discuss them with you, or if you want to, um, but we're going to coach the kids hard, but we also don't coach on eggshells, because we've had experiences where kids have been like, well, gosh, they're yelling at my kid, and this team said they were going to start him and he didn't even play in the second half. Well, yeah, your kid's lazy, first off. Let's just be honest. And he doesn't pay attention in practice. You're not at the practice. He's not paying attention. And then they've jumped ship. And that's why we charge $18.50, and we do that up front. So it's $1,850 plus like 51 processing. I don't see that. So if you're interested in saving that 51, we can get you a discount code, and you can write a check or Venmo the $18.50, or you can pay the processing fee online with a credit card. But we've had kids that we've tried to help out, and then they burn us. And I do plan on making not enough. I went mute there. I plan on making a little bit of money, but not enough to put up with a whole lot of headaches. If I was making 40 or 50 grand this spring, I would listen to parents chirp at me a little bit more and put up with a little more crap. But if I'm gonna not make 30 or 40 grand, then I want to try to make this as stress-free, as fun for everybody involved as possible, and try to get your players from where they are to where they want to be. And that's my goal, is to try to help them get there. Does that mean that they're going to get to playing college or even play varsity, or no? But we're going to do everything we can to try to help them get from where they are to where they want to be. First thing is we go over goals. Because if you have a goal and you're like, well, my goal is to play Division I college basketball, then that's a great place for us to start a conversation on the fact that you might not, or if you do, like Coach Willis and I both are former Division I players. But I got way more money, over $100,000 more for my academics than I did for my basketball. And so there's over 10,000 academic scholarships for every one basketball scholarship in the US. 10,000 to 1. So unless you're like a really big gambler, unless you really like that long shot, like the big odds, take care of business in the classroom. So 3 things I'm going to leave us with: take care of business in the classroom, stay out of trouble, and get around good friends. I think those 3 things, wherever you're at, freshman to senior, can improve your chances of getting where you want to be, whether that's Cody, who's a senior going off to play in college and he wants to make the varsity team as a freshman, or he wants to start, or it's a freshman wanting to make varsity next year, or it's a junior wanting to make all league next year. So those 3 things: show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Show me your friends, who do you hang out with? I'll show you your future. Stay out of trouble. There's too many kids that are good basketball players now for a college coach to take a risk on a kid. So if you're the type that's like, well, maybe I want to play in college, or maybe I want to play in high school, you have your whole life to drink or smoke or do those things. You have one chance to be a high school athlete, one chance to be a college athlete. Don't risk it by doing stuff that puts you in a position where it's your word versus theirs, or now everybody has camera phones. I mean, I get it. I was a teenager once too, and I did stupid stuff, but there wasn't camera phones. And I didn't do a whole lot of stupid stuff, parents. I don't want to sound like I'm a horrible person or did too crazy stuff, but there is a lot that you can lose. And as an athlete, you're kind of in a fishbowl, meaning everyone's watching you. And misery loves company, or people want to drag you down to their level. So you're popular as an athlete, as a basketball player, you're popular. People want to see you fail. So if you're at a party and you have a beer in your hand, that could put you in a position where somebody else is like, man, that guy's popular or good looking or an athlete. I don't want to see him having all that. I'm going to take a picture and turn him in. And that stuff happens, and jealousy is real. It's sad. I hate it, but that stuff happens. So I just make sure I say that in every call. I'm not saying that anybody in here might do that or would do that or has done that or is doing that, but get better grades, stay out of trouble, and get around good friends. That's free. That's free. Free information. Nothing was charged today for this call. We're about 3 minutes till 4. We're going to keep it right at the hour, but I will stop the recording and then you guys can unmute and ask questions. I know Jack, we're going to hop on here in a second too, but I do appreciate you guys all being here because I do get excited about this stuff. And this is like not my Super Bowl, but it's kind of like the kickoff. So I didn't sit on the sideline this year as a coach. I went to quite a few of the Boxers games, saw Kellen at a couple of them, you know. But this is something that I look forward to. And the Zoom calls will be fun. We'll do scavenger hunts. We'll do trivia games. Players will have to film a video. Parents will film a video as an introduction, stretching their comfort zone. Most guys don't like to talk in front of other people, but you're going to have to. I didn't call on anybody too much, maybe some of the returners to spell out grit, but you got to stretch your comfort zone, be able to speak in front of other people. You know, all those things will make you a more marketable person when you're trying to find a job. Even if you're an engineer. I went to an engineer conference the other day and there was a lot of conversations kind of like this, like, yeah, I'm a senior in high school. Tomorrow I'm going to DECA, which is more business minded. So there'll be a lot more charismatic people that probably can't do the math that the engineers could do. But if you're an engineer, try to get to where you can speak. If you're a businessman, try to get to where you can do the math and science. But all right. Well, I appreciate everyone joining again. And I have fun doing these. So we're going to do about 4 more of the informational ones. You're welcome to join again if you would like, if you want the humor and jokes. Some of them might go again. You might hear about Doogie Howser. Some jokes do fly for more than one meeting, but this is not required. The other ones are not required. But if you guys would like to join again, I think the next one is either Tuesday or next Sunday. I know we'll do one next Sunday, but I'm going to go ahead and hit stop on the recording.